What's up guys, my name is Ace, and something that I'm really happy that Black Ops 7 brought back to the franchise is the Specialist Strike package, although in this case, it comes in the form of a Wildcard. And with this, if you're using a class with this equipped, it substitutes your score streak rewards for perk rewards as you go on a streak. And so today, we're gonna be breaking down exactly how this works, which perks you get, which perks you don't get with your Specialist bonus, and also some optimal setups and strategies, in my eyes at least, when using Specialist to really get the most out of it. And starting it off with the basics, just in case you weren't familiar, with this equipped, you choose 3 perks to be earned while you're on the process of working your way up to the Specialist bonus. And you will earn your first perk at 200 score in a life, the second perk is at 400 score, third perk is at 600 score, and then finally you get your Specialist bonus where you get almost all of the perks all at once at 1200 score. Now of course this will reset on death, just like if you were going for a score streak in the game. And now let's talk about that Specialist bonus a little bit, which again, you get at 1200 score in a single life. With this, it says you get all the perks in the game. However, it's not quite actually true there. There are a couple key exceptions here. The first one being the Tac Sprinter perk. When you get the Specialist bonus, it doesn't automatically award that. However, that doesn't mean that you can't use Tac Sprinter with Specialist. You just have to actively select it as either one of your base perks on your loadout or one of the perks that you earn along the way toward your bonus. And I'm actually really glad that they don't include this. This is something they did very intentionally because many people, myself included, don't want to use Tac Sprint at all. I find that to be a downgrade. I prefer having one sprint out time, and that's all I have to worry about. So I'm glad that it doesn't automatically award that. And then the other exception here is, of course, the Looper perk. This one can't be used at all on a Specialist loadout. You can't even use it as like one of your default base perks when using Specialist because it simply doesn't interact with this at all. It only interacts with score streak rewards. Now, another somewhat exception here is the Bankroll perk. This is another situation where Bankroll works great towards Specialist if you use it as a default perk, because then you spawn into the match only requiring 50 score to get your first perk, and it's going to take you 150 score less to reach your Specialist bonus, which is really nice. Because obviously, the sooner you get that bonus with all of those perks, the better. However, it is also worth noting you can use Bankroll as one of the selected perks as well on your way up towards Specialist. And when you earn it, you just get that 150 score added right then and there, which again, you can use to reduce the amount of score required to reach your bonus. Now, just a quick note, there is a bug/exploit with Bankroll and Specialist that I'm sure some of you guys will be bringing up in the comments. This is something I don't want to actively spread, so I'm not going to be sharing how to do it or anything because I think this could be potentially game breaking. So I'm hoping we see a fix for that very soon. Now, after that, there's another really key thing to know about Specialist and the Specialist bonus, and that is Combat Specialties. When you reach that Specialist bonus, you don't get all of the Combat Specialties. Maybe you should. Maybe there's an argument that you should get that. However, you don't. You only get one Combat Specialty, and it's the one that you have when you spawn into the game. And that means your 3 base perks are actually quite important if you're planning on properly utilizing Specialist and maybe going on like a nuke streak, for instance. You really want to consider which Combat Specialty is going to be best for you, especially looking at like the long term of that streak, because many of the Combat Specialties, especially the hybrid ones, they're not really going to be doing much for you, if anything at all, once you reach your Specialist bonus and get all of the perks in the game. And the reason behind this is some of those Combat Specialties are basically just giving you portions of existing perks in the game, which you will now have on your class as soon as you get your bonus, which means that specialty is no longer doing anything for you. And another key thing is the Combat Specialties that help you with score. Again, the moment you reach that Specialist bonus, any additional score for that life after that is not going to be helping you at all because there's nothing left for you to earn with that score. So ideally, you want to be focusing on Combat Specialties that are actually going to be helping you stay alive and keep that streak going, even once you've got that Specialist bonus and all of the perks in the game. And so with all of that in mind, the 2 Combat Specialties I would highly recommend always going for if you're using a Specialist loadout are going to be either Enforcer, which requires 3 red perks, because when you get a kill while that's active, you gain a buff to your movement speed, and more importantly, you gain a really nice buff to your health regeneration. It's cut down by 2 whole seconds, which is a long time, and then your health regeneration rate is massively improved over the base. So you can get back up to full health after winning a gunfight so much faster, and that's the type of thing that's really going to help you keep that streak going as you're approaching a nuke, for instance. Alternatively, Recon is another excellent option here for going on long streaks with Specialist. This one will require your 3 base perks to be all blue. And the main thing I like about this one is you get high alert built in. So if an enemy is looking at you outside of your field of view, the edge of your screen will pulse. You will be able to see that somebody's looking at you from beside or from behind. And that can be very beneficial when trying to keep a streak going. And then on top of that, you leave no death skulls when you kill enemy players, which that particular perk isn't attached to any other perk in the game. So it's not like you're gaining that with the Specialist bonus. And so Recon is excellent as well. And if I'm taking a Specialist loadout seriously, it will always consist of either Enforcer or Recon for my Combat Specialty. If you aren't ensuring you're using one of those 2 Combat Specialties, in my opinion at least, you aren't using Specialist optimally. So with all of that in mind, let's get into 2 optimal setups that I really like using with Specialists. Keep in mind, the guns are irrelevant to this. Use whatever guns you want, although I would recommend a suppressor if you're trying to go on really long streaks. And with this first optimal setup, we're going for the Enforcer Combat Specialty. So our base perks are going to be Lightweight, Assassin, and Bankroll. And with this, Assassin is nice because if you pick up those bounty packs after killing enemies that are on a streak, it gives you extra score, which will get you to your Specialist bonus that much faster. With Bankroll, I've already explained the benefits on that. This is excellent to have at least somewhere on your loadout on your way towards Specialist, since it reduces the overall score required. And since we're using Enforcer, might as well just throw that as our tier 3. On top of that, to help us get to the Specialist bonus, we have Squad Link as our field upgrade with the double score overclock. That one's going to help a ton to reaching that bonus very quickly. For our tactical, since we've got Enforcer, I don't feel the need to use a stim shot here, since after I win a gunfight, I'm going to be healing very quickly anyway. And since we're not staying off the radar or anything, I've got the Hunter bot with the increased damage overclock on it against score streaks, and that allows me to just quickly take out enemy UAVs if they call them in as I'm trying to get up to my Specialist bonus, and maybe I don't have Ghost yet. And the additional benefit there is it awards score when doing so again, allows me to get to that bonus much faster. For lethal, doesn't really matter. I like the Semtex, so that's what I've got on there. And then for my 3 perks to earn along the way, I've got Cold-Blooded on here just because I do feel it is quite an important perk in this game. There are so many things that Cold-Blooded counters that can be really annoying to run into if you don't have it. Then we've got Ghost on here just so then I don't have to worry nearly as much about enemy UAVs, even though I do have that Hunter bot to take them out quite easily. It's just nice having that peace of mind knowing that I can stay off the radar entirely there. And then the last one here is Scavenger, just because at that point I'm probably getting kind of close to running out of ammo. And so it's nice to get that little booster there so I can get some ammo and stick with the gun that I brought into the game. So that right there is an excellent combination for Specialist. However, just an alternative here, we have my other optimal setup, which is using the Recon Combat Specialty. So my 3 perks on this are going to be Ghost, Vigilance, and Cold-Blooded. So I can just be off the radar, nice and stealthy. I've got the bigger minimap right away. Don't have to worry about enemy UAVs. Don't have to worry about all the things that Cold-Blooded counters. And most importantly here, I get High Alert, which is going to be helping me throughout my entire streak, even once I get my bonus. For my field upgrade, while you could use Squad Link like the previous one, I also like using Active Camo with Specialists because it can often allow you to sort of buy yourself out of a bad situation. If you end up on a big streak and then you just realize you're positioned really poorly, maybe you get pinched by multiple enemies and you know your time has come, you can often pop Active Camo and just get yourself out of that situation, sort of get a reset on things with your positioning, and that can be incredibly helpful. So that's why I've got Active Camo on there. We are using the stim shot on this since we don't have Enforcer to heal up really quickly after fights, so stims are going to be nice for that. And I once again have the Semtex on there. And then for my 3 Specialist perks on this one, the first one is Flak Jacket, so I get that explosive resistance nice and early. Then we've got Scavenger because again, at around that point, I may want to start thinking about getting some ammo on my class. I may start to get a bit low, or at least this is before I start to get low, so I don't have to worry about it too much. And then finally, we have Bankroll on here, and it might seem weird to put that as the 3rd perk, but the nice thing about this is the moment you earn that, you now cut off 150 score toward your Specialist bonus. And that's just really nice. The sooner you can get to that bonus, the better, because that's when you're getting essentially all of the perks. So with this one, this is an excellent way to run a Recon setup while going for Specialist as well, so we can heal up quickly after fights, we can stay off the radar right from the beginning of our life, which makes it easier to stay alive right from the beginning as well. And then we also have that High Alert indicator and no death skulls for enemies when you kill them, which can all be excellent for keeping that streak going. And there we have it. Those are my two optimal setups that I really like using with Specialist. And when it comes to my final thoughts on how they've implemented Specialist in the game, I've got to say, initially, I was really skeptical about this implementation, largely because our Specialist bonus isn't achieved until 1200 score, and that's a lot of score relative to older versions of Specialist. Like looking back to the original Specialist in Modern Warfare 3, we got our Specialist bonus, which also included proficiencies, so it was a much more powerful version of Specialist. We got that on an 8-point streak. So in Team Deathmatch, for instance, it would only take an 8-kill streak to get that Specialist bonus, whereas in Black Ops 7 in Team Deathmatch, if we're just isolating the amount of kills it would require, that is a 12-kill streak to earn that. However, in saying that, there are more opportunities to earn score in this, plus you can use something like Bankroll to reduce that cost, and with everything in there combined, I've actually changed my stance on that a bit. I think it is a lot more reasonable than I initially thought. I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to them even reducing that further. Maybe 1000 score would be more appropriate. But it's really not as bad as I initially expected, and overall, I'm just so glad that they added Specialist to the game. I really enjoy that change of pace, where I can sacrifice earning score streak rewards and instead make myself a bit of a super soldier as I go on a streak. Now, of course, those are just my thoughts, and I'd love to hear what you guys think about this implementation of Specialist in those comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.